Hi, I'm Dr. Alex Loyd, and this is what I might call an extended case study of a wonderful young lady who's a client of mine who is doing the belief mapping for the first time. And so that's what this interview is about. I've been kind of working on belief mapping for over 30 years, but about a year ago, discovered what I had been doing wrong. The reason it didn't work as consistently as I always thought it should or would. And since changing that, it has been working very consistently. And so, Alice, this is Allison Brown. Allison, welcome. Thank you for agreeing to do this.
Yeah, thank you for thinking of me.
Okay. And Allison, you're a professional, correct?
I am. I am a psychiatric nurse practitioner that works in a pediatric office.
Okay. And do you have a history like of natural medicine, alternative stuff, energy medicine, or is this pretty new to you?
This is very new to me. Since I was trained under a medical model, this has always been a little bit suspect in my mind.
Yeah. So how did you come? How did you happen upon us? How did you find belief mapping, or me, or the company, or whatever?
So a couple of different ways. I came across your book that a friend had given me, which I was moderately skeptical about. But then I kind of got a big endorsement about your book from a first cousin. And so she was telling me about some of the responses that she had gotten to doing this work. And it overcame my skepticism, and I decided to try it.
Okay. And that was how long ago? How long ago did you first get into this?
She was talking to me about it at least 8 or 9 months ago. I remained skeptical for a few months, and then and then I started doing it, just the healing code.
Okay. And now how long have you been doing the belief mapping at this point?
So because I wasn't aware of the belief mapping until about 3 weeks ago, that's how long I've been doing it.
Okay, so everything you're going to be talking about is in relation to 3 weeks of
Okay.
doing the belief mapping, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So about 3 weeks ago, you became a client of mine, and along with a lot of other stuff, codes and stuff like that, I also gave you the belief mapping material, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And can you just sort of take us from there and explain, okay, you got the belief mapping. What was your experience? What did you think? How skeptical were you before you ever tried it? What happened when you tried it? Just sort of take us from there. From, okay, I'm seeing belief mapping for the first time.
Well, so I'll attack this from my professional viewpoint, and then from my personal experience, I think will be the
Okay.
best way
Okay.
for me to frame this up. So intellectually, from like a professional standpoint, in doing some therapy, especially with children, it's very, very slow going when you hit upon a sore spot, or a stumbling block in therapy, or with a child who may not be as aware of the source of their issues. The belief mapping it almost feels like a catalyst in terms of identifying a root, and then identifying all of the things around that root that are affecting you kind of daily, both consciously and subconsciously. So, like I've never done belief mapping with children. given that I've only been aware of it for 3 weeks, but I think it would be an interesting thing to help children map out as well. From my personal experience, just as an adult and as your client, it has helped me. It has helped to clarify, number one, what is most problematic for me today, and then what areas of my life is it affecting. And so spending time on that makes me aware that I'm being affected in a lot more areas than I realized. And the belief mapping, I think, you said don't get too caught up in trying to get it done. But it takes me about 10 or 15 minutes. And then I keep thinking, well, when am I ever going to be done? I could probably add more. But I end up with an overwhelming number of things on my belief map that I think it's enough for me to work with, even if I'm not getting to everything right then.
Right. Okay. And then when you actually do the belief mapping, which is the belief mapping is sort of a process that activates everything. And then you do what I call a code intervention on all of that stuff at the same time. So how has that gone for you? And what have you experienced actually doing it when you do the intervention to heal those things, heal the source of those things?
So when I was doing the healing codes without the belief mapping, I found it a lot more difficult to meditate and remain with the problem that I was working on. Okay. And I would get very distracted very easily. So with the belief mapping, it kind of anchors you to the one thing that you're trying to work on in that moment. And so through the whole process that you're taking us through with healing codes and LG3 and all of the other pieces, it's enabled me to have that meditative state for like the 20-25 minutes that I'm spending each morning in terms of harmonizing the state of my body and getting positive energy flowing in my body.
Yeah. Okay. And one thing about belief mapping is that as part of that process, you kind of rate your issues on a -10 to +10 scale. And then you do the interventions, and then you keep doing them until the numbers are better to the point that those issues aren't bothering you anymore. Have you been seeing your numbers getting better in the 3 weeks you've been doing belief mapping?
Yes. So just a little bit of background on me. I'm recently divorced. That's never pleasant. I do feel like my divorce was contentious. And I've been having a lot of anxiety. Started seeing a psychiatrist, got on 5 different medications. So anxiety was the first brain map that I did. I have since moved on from that because my anxiety, which was, I would say probably I rated it as a -8, pretty wow. Significant. And then after it took me probably 3 or 4 days of staying on the anxiety, that I got it to a +3, which for me was such a significant jump that I am now at times during the day aware of anxiety. I do some of the pieces, like some of the stress firewall and other things to kind of tamp down on it and notice that, I don't notice any anxiety. So even though it crops back up, it's not constant, which is what it was before. And it was very disturbing to my daily functioning, difficult for me professionally. And that is not the case. And that was 3 weeks ago. And I'm still, I'm still experiencing this lack of anxiety that is incredible for me because I've carried it with me even prior to my divorce, carried a lot of anxiety with me.
Okay, so let me nutshell that. So you're saying that when you first started working on belief mapping, the first thing you worked on was anxiety because that's what was bothering you the most, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then you did the belief mapping on the anxiety, which you rated as a -8 on a -10 to +10. So almost as bad as it could possibly be,
Yes.
right? Okay. And you're saying 3 or 4 days later, it was a +3 and no longer really bothering you. Is that correct?
Yes. And so some of the ways, again, so that scale is subjective. So you
Right.
don't know what a -8 for me is, and you don't know what a +3 for me is.
Right.
So that's subjective. But some of the objective medical measures that I might apply to that would include not waking up with a headache, not waking up with ruminating thoughts, improved regularity in terms of bowel movements. And I think
Much more important than most people think, right?
it's very important.
Yeah.
And then another one is getting my appetite back. I've just had no appetite for the last year and a half.
And traumas tend to do that. With traumas, you're either not hungry at all or you eat the house, one or the other. Okay, so you're talking about something that you were seeing a psychiatrist for that was the biggest issue of your life, had been the biggest issue even before your divorce, and it's way better in 3 or 4 days. Was that surprising to you, or was it not surprising? After the skeptical start.
Well, Dr. Alex, I chalked it up to coincidence. I was like, no, this is just coincidence. But because it has continued and nothing else, no other factors have changed. And also because I moved on from that first belief mapping, I moved on to another area because I was like, hey, anxiety is taken care of. And it continues to be incredibly absent in my daily life. So yes, I do believe that it was the belief mapping and then that meditative work, the process which you have you have concentrated these amazing and thousands of year old practices that thousands of years ago, I don't think they understood why they worked. But now today, like modern day, we have a basis, a scientific basis to understand why they work.
Right.
And you have concentrated that into a program that allows us to utilize that in like minutes a day.
Well, thank you. I believe it was given to me. It happened in prayer, so I don't take the credit. Okay, so I want to ask you another question, and please don't mention her name because I don't know if she wants her name mentioned or not. But 2 days ago, I talked to your cousin on the phone. And she just volunteered out of the blue. And here's what she said. She said, I saw Allison yesterday, or it might have been the same day. And she said she looked absolutely transformed. Did she say anything like that to you?
She did tell me that. Yeah. She said, Allie, you look so bright and like luminescent. And she said your skin is just beautiful. You just have a different look about you. And what's funny about that is I have another friend that's long distance that I FaceTime a lot, and they said the same thing to me. So that obviously felt very good.
Did you disagree with her? When she said that, did you think, oh no, I'm not transformed? That's
No, I did not disagree with her. Not at all. I was surprised, like, really, you can see that on the
can see
outside?
it.
That's definitely how I'm feeling on the inside.
Okay. Okay. Last question. Last question. And thank you so much for doing this, Allison. Um, People are going to be seeing this that are going to be debating. Okay, this is something, another thing saying it's, the greatest thing, and that asked me to spend money for it. And, people are inundated with 100 of these every single day. To the person who's searching for pain relief, for primarily emotional, but really the source of almost any kind of pain relief. And they're trying to weigh this against other things. They're trying to weigh this as far as how much it costs. And you did that a number of weeks ago. So, what would you say to that person being 3 weeks into doing it?
One of the things I would say is take the risk, because I think that's part of the trepidation of trying any method, is to take the risk. And I think most people that you're describing are at that point where they've tried a lot of different things, and they, including medication and including many other types of therapies. And I do believe other types of therapies work.
Yes.
What I think about what you do is that I don't think, maybe galvanize is the word I'm looking for, because I don't quite like catalyst, but I feel like it galvanizes or harnesses several different methods that together are quite powerful. And from a Christian perspective, which I know that not every client that you have will have the Christian perspective, but I think most are going to have a spiritual life.
Right.
But from the Christian perspective, I feel like because God created energy,
Right.
which, the first line of the Bible is that God created light, and light is energy. And so anything that has life has energy. And the way that God intended for the world to work was for that energy to be harmonious. And so we know we live in a fallen world. And so some of that energy gets stuck, or some of that energy gets hurt or harmed. And so those places live on inside of us. And so I think it's easy most therapy is attacking you here in your conscious mind. And so the manifestations come in through your body. But what nobody really knows how to help is your unconscious mind. And so that's really, I think, the difference in terms of how energy is able to move and affect the unconscious mind. That's how I have worked out in my head why this works differently. I don't know if that would make any sense to anyone else. But I would say take the risk because you haven't done anything like this before.
I just thought of one other question. Can I ask you one more?
Well, I guess so, Dr. Alex.
Okay. So last question, and we're kind of ending where we started with 9 months ago when you first heard about not the belief mapping, but me and the book and that sort of thing. And you got it and read it, but you were really skeptical. So fast forwarding to today, after you've been doing it for 3 weeks, as a professional, as a mainstream medical professional now, with both the skepticism on one side, but then your experience with the anxiety over the last 3 weeks on the other, how do you make sense of that as a professional?
The way I make sense of that at this point, and it's sort of an unformed idea.
Yeah.
Um,
You've only had 3 weeks.
yeah, yeah. Is that the body is always exhibiting symptoms. That God made the body in an amazing way. That's the reason I went into the medical helping profession, and I've always believed that the body has an amazing capacity to heal itself, and we see that there are many examples of that. But just as often with disease, we see that something has gone wrong in the body. For example, diabetes, we see that the body has its mechanism for regulating insulin, and for some reason, the body is unable to continue to regulate blood sugars, and then you have disease. And so we have treatments for that, but we don't cure that, and we also don't have an explanation for why it went wrong in the first place. And that's true for so many of our diseases.
Right.
We could look at heart disease, which is the #1 killer worldwide. In every country in the world, heart disease is what is killing people. And we have some modifications and some things that we can do to try to help people with heart disease, but we don't cure anybody's heart disease.
Yeah.
And so, we get close to it where we talk about type A and type B people, and we talk about managing stress. And so that's as close as we've gotten in the professional medical world, is like our discussions on stress. What we haven't gotten to, and this is where I'd say, this is where you enter in with some true clarity, and I would say with some of God's truth, or the truth of the earth, that everything revolves around energy. And so I think that I am at a crisis in terms of what I do every day in my job, knowing that what I really need to help people work on is helping them to have positive energy, but also energy that is able to move freely through cells. And we are composed of trillions of cells, and they all have a memory. They all have an imprint. And so what you do enables us to get into each of those cells, and there's nothing else like that. So I'm a little stuck in terms of realizing now the limitations of what I offer to my patients in my mainstream profession. But I'm delighted to know that there are other types of things that can help them more, and that I can direct them towards that if they're open to that. But it's an incredible model for therapy. And I think that it can do in several weeks what might take months or years to do in other types of therapy. So I'm very pleased to be on the inside of that, and to have discovered that, and to have taken part and benefited from that. And I hope that many other people will also take that risk and try this, and they will see for themselves the results, and other people will see it, their results as well. Yeah.
It does show on the outside usually.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Allison. And by the way, we do have 23 double-blind studies by universities published in peer-reviewed journals on the intervention, the healing intervention. So if you're a person who wants that mainstream validation, we've got that too. Allison, thank you so very much. It's been delightful. And I would love to talk to you in the future about maybe how you can integrate this with, your patients. And I think that's what we all need to do. I need to integrate mainstream. Mainstream needs to integrate some alternative, and that's happening more than it ever has before. So that's encouraging. Allison, thank you so very much, and have a wonderful day. And let's go from 3 weeks to the rest of your life.
Yes, let's do that. Thank you so much, Dr. Alex.
Okay, thank you, Allison. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.